So playing through what I enjoy, I've been playing through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And something I really have started to realize as I play through this game is how much of a pleasure certain games are. And just when you find something that you like, you really click with it. I was watching a interview with a specific creator that I actually have been inspired by heavily. It's the reason why I do these videos the way I do them. His name's Sam Solik. Sam Solik is a bodybuilder. He is a young kid. He just did his first ever official show. Really cool, interesting dude. But what he does is he has these 30 to 45 minute long conversation based, it's super, super bare bones. And I'm like, I really like that. And so I started making these about a year ago or a year and change ago. And what I liked about it was this he was on a podcast with Jay Cutler. What he said was so crazy. He's like, I would have done this anyway. I would have gone to the gym anyway. I would have driven to the gym anyway. I would have did my posing after my workouts anyway. It was going to happen. So why not record it and make videos out of it? And I'm like, dude, that's so crazy. And so for me, I'm like, I'm going to play video games anyway. I'm going to drink coffee anyway. I'm going to think about these things in my head anyway. So now why not make cups about it? And the thing I was thinking about today was I'm doing this cup in the middle of streaming. So instead of starting the stream off, I actually started with gaming. And then now I'm doing a cup. Immortalizing in the cup, I have to give a huge shout out to Remzi. Remzi is someone who is new to the streams, but has come in and just caused waves, man. So shout out to you, Remzi. But what I have been enjoying in this game, there was a specific scene. We're about mid-game right now. I think I'm going to finish it hopefully sometime soon because I have the Final Fantasy Challenge to finish every single mainline Final Fantasy game, excluding 11 and 14, and additionally adding Rebirth and Remake, as well as Final Fantasy Tactics, live over on twitch.tv/JDXCoffee before January 31st. The original thing was to actually finish it before my birthday, January 4th, but a lot of us over on the Discord, which you can get access to Discord over on Twitch only when I'm live, a lot of us over there got bit by the Elden Ring bug. And so as a community, we're going through Elden Ring. One of my good friends is actually streaming Elden Ring. But while I was playing through the scene, there was a moment where the story gets a little bit complex. We start getting into some of the differences between Final Fantasy VII Original and Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth. And in that moment, something that hit me was like, why does anyone play any other game? Why isn't everyone just playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And then someone so generously and kindly was just like, that not everybody's into this. And I'm like, that's so true. I'm like, why are people playing Call of Duty when you can just play this? This is so crazy. Huge swords, magic, awesome lore, humor, right? And I realized that preference and loving something is the reason why video games are so special. And at the beginning of the year, I would say it wasn't at the beginning of the year, actually. It was a little bit further back. Sometime, I think it was towards the end of last year, I was officially diagnosed with ADHD, something that I didn't know I had. I knew that life as a whole, making decisions entirely, was something that I found unbelievably complicated and challenging. I'd find myself making decisions and then not finishing or following through, something I've done in this career, something I've done on YouTube, certainly, and over on Twitch. But when I was diagnosed with ADHD, immediately I was hit with this right between the eyes. I'm like, who am I? Am I someone who actually enjoys the things I enjoy, or are these just ways that I'm trying to cope and fit in with other people? Do I really like, video games as much as I do? Do I really like manga, or did I just buy manga because I wanted to, relate to someone else? And it really threw me for a huge loop. I didn't know who I was. And I think I maybe took it a little bit further than I needed to internally, but hey, we overthink here, dude. Shout out to the overthinkers. And so as I was really investigating all of my interests in what gets me and makes me me and excited and actually who I am, I realized through that investigation, through the uncovering of different things, that part of the reason why I like the things I like is because they give me an emotional response. They give me this like feeling of like, ooh, right? It's not just oh, that's cool, but it actually really like, it almost feels physical. It almost feels like I'm experiencing it in real life. And I am someone who over the years has developed, I wouldn't go as far as saying I'm a I would be a hyper empath, I think is what they call it. But I have been able to develop the skill of understanding emotions, right? Understanding to a deep level, like as in I feel it myself, right? And so that mixed with some of these experiences, I'm like, man, I'm drawn to the heavy emotional experience. I'm drawn to those types of things. And I find myself struggling to get through something that I would consider to be otherwise boring. And because I would also be someone who would consider myself a hyper empath, I feel like those experiences need to be very elevated, right? It can't just be somewhat exciting. It has to be substantially exciting, right? I have to be, if I'm playing a game, it has to be one that is so unbelievably engaging, and not engaging in the addictive sense, because those bore me to tears, man. Games that are just engaging because I got to grind, no, not that kind of engaging. I'm talking about story is cool. Of course, with freaking Cloud, the giant sword, Sephiroth, epic, like all of this stuff, insane. I know there's crazy awesome stories to be experienced throughout the Final Fantasy franchise, and part of the reason why the challenge exists is to challenge myself to continue through and to make some of these that otherwise would be more boring part of a challenge which has that experience, and it has that like feeling, that visceral feeling of like, oh, I'm doing something great. But I realized through this, I'm like, man, I really like those experiences. And as I was playing through that scene, I'm like, this is the freaking coolest thing ever. I got chills. I'm like giddy. I'm like, this is so awesome. The story's getting epic. Stuff's happening. I feel emotional. I'm sad. I'm happy. And I've played this game before. I went through this whole game already on PlayStation 5. I'm doing it again over on PC so I can stream and enjoy that with other people. Again, over on twitch.tv/JDXCoffee. And the very experience that I've been having with this has been one of really getting myself excited about some of these games. But when someone said, yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody, I realized like these types of experiences are ones that as I went through that investigative process of myself, understanding who I was, what I liked, this is the thing that is so special about gaming. And I think we have kind of fallen off of, or the gaming industry has fallen out of, which is understanding that there are definitely different strokes for different folks, or as I used to say in high school, different streaks for different freaks. The feeling that I have with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not the same feeling that someone who is a huge fan of maybe, the BioShock series or Fallout might have. They might be like, yeah, swords and magic just ain't my gig. But managing gear and understanding payload and, picking up stuff in a Bethesda game in the dialogue boxes just gets me going. It really, I can't stop. It's so great. And, that is the special sauce that is gaming. That is the special thing that is us as people. Like, we have these interests that we love. We have the things that we gravitate towards. And those things are not only so exciting for us, but there are other people out there to relate to that way. Like, so when I went through this investigative process, right, to get back to it, I started collecting manga because a good friend of mine was collecting manga. And I'm like, I'm going to do this too, because this seems cool, right? And at first I did it and I was like, I have more manga than I can read. And then I started reading it and I really liked it a lot and I enjoyed it. And I genuinely do. But when I started to look back at myself, I'm like, did I get this just to fit in and have something to talk about? Or did I get this for me? And with gaming, I feel like sometimes I have in the past, let me know if you have too, like a Call of Duty. I brought it up. I have, except for the last couple. No, actually, except for just last one, Black Ops. I have purchased every single Call of Duty game since I started streaming, not because I wanted to, right? I thought I wanted to, but what I wanted to fit in. I wanted people to like what other people. I didn't care if people liked me. I wanted to like what other people liked. I didn't like feeling like I was on the outside. I didn't like feeling like the stuff I liked was not good enough, right? The fact that my favorite games are Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Zelda, Mario. Right? I'm a 36-year-old bro-y looking dude who has a somewhat deeper voice, works out all the time, and keeps himself healthy, right? The demographic that I look like I should be part of Nick Merckx, be a part of Doc, like these first-person shooters. But I feel uncomfortable in that space. I feel almost overstimulated. I genuinely feel like when I play those games, it feels gross because I'm someone who connects with the characters. There's no characters. I guess there's technically characters in Call of Duty, the campaigns, but I have such a hard time with the violence in those games because of the way it is. And whenever I ended up getting a title, not Final Fantasy, Call of Duty, or some of these first-person shooters, the exception of Halo. Halo's kind of silly. I was always feeling an element of like, this isn't fitting. And what it is it's the timeline split, dude. It's the timeline split, just like in Final Fantasy. I see myself in this space in multiple areas, right? Having different interests, or not interests, but different outcomes, right? And when it comes to content creation and streaming, there are different ways to go about it. And a little peer behind the curtain is niching is very important. Some people will say, just be you, sell you. That works. It certainly does. And I would 100% say that if you're a good person, people gravitate towards you. But people usually find who you are based on what you're doing at first, right? So cheers to you. Coffee real quick. And for me, what I realized was I was really chasing one of the timelines that would be otherwise dark whispers. Okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are two different, there's some timeline splits that happen in Final Fantasy, whatever. And I was chasing this timeline and I was going like, man, I'm going against the grain. But I know that on the other side of this is whatever, popularity, career, success, however it goes. And I want to know how many times in life, just let me know in the comments, how many times in life have you been chasing that, right? You go, I just don't like, it's not me. It's not me, but it's the outcome, man. It's going to get me that next thing, right? I'm not saying don't work hard. You can absolutely work hard, but you can work hard in multiple ways, right? They always work smart, work hard, whatever. You can work hard in a field that is who you are, that is what you are, that is who you're supposed to be. I believe we all created, and in being created, I believe we're all created for a specific purpose, okay? Without getting crazy about it, I think that every person's created to do specific things, whether it's to be a part of a society in a specific way or to build a business that can affect people in certain ways. I believe we all are created to do certain things. I believe I was created to speak, right? Here I am speaking. And in doing so, in understanding that, I understand that in that, you might be going against the grain in certain areas. But there's a big difference between going against the grain socially and going against the grain holistically, spiritually, however you want to put it. I would say spiritually. Some other people might not agree with that concept. I think that going against the grain socially means, hey, I look this way, talk this way, act this way, I should be this way, but I'm not. I'm a hyper nerd who reads manga, likes Mario, and sticks to Final Fantasy games. It's always funny when I talk to people and talk about what I do. I'll be at like Trader Joe's or one of the other places and be like, yo, how's it going? Whatever, home with the kids, however it comes up. They're just like, what do you do? And I'm like, I play video games for a living. I'm like, what games do you play? And I'm like, Final Fantasy. And they're just like, what? Some people go, what's that? Other people are like, oh, okay. Never heard of it. Other people are like, really? Okay. I was at a get-together, a work event for my wife, and one of the gentlemen that I was talking to, how can I be as vague as I can without also making the story actually hit? Let's see here, how can I do this? One of the guys I was talking to was drinking like the equivalent of a Natty Light, right? I don't think they had Natty Lights where we were at, but it was basically a Natty Light. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what Natty Light's like a piss beer. It's not a good beer. It's a bad beer. It's a beer you use for beer pong. So I've been told. I don't play beer pong. I didn't go to college. I also didn't go to frat parties. I never really drank. Another thing that doesn't make sense, right? I've I've talked. I mean, I've had alcohol before, right? I definitely have, but I not a drinker. And so, he made a statement talking about football. Okay, so there's one, and when he was talking about football, he was like, "Oh man," talking about his high school years, right? "Oh man, take me back," you know what I mean? And he looked at me, you know what I mean? And I was like, how do I say this without being rude? This guy is, and I was like, yeah, not really. I mean, I'm pretty stoked on what I do now. And he's like, well, yeah, of course. What do you do? And I was like, I play video games for a living. He goes, oh yeah, man, me too. Dude, there's nothing like Call of Duty, and some FIFA. What do you play? And I was like, Final Fantasy and Zelda. And he's like, no, like really? You play that? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. You don't get on Call of Duty or like, no. He goes, oh, okay. All right. Well, and I was like, dude, okay, cool, man. But in that moment, it was such a, this was after I had gone through the process of like dealing with my interests and who I was as a person. I was like, that's it. That's just it. That's those moments where you're going against the grain socially, right? You might not fit in socially. No Fortnite, bruh. I actually do. I have had my stints in Fortnite. I was reading something on chat for those of you who are watching this as a cup. But you go through those, you go against the grain in a certain way. It may feel different, feel odd. And it doesn't even take confidence to hold your head high and be like, oh, I am who I am. You need to take me for who I am. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think the ideology of like, you need to accept me. No, that's not how we should think of this kind of stuff. It shouldn't be you need to accept me for who I am, because what that means is the things that the person who you're forcing to accept you, it means that their feelings aren't valid. It means that what they like and dislike isn't allowed to exist. If you're a certain way, Mariners fan, father, I don't know, whoever I am, and someone's like, I don't like you, you don't have to. That's totally cool. Like, totally fine. I don't accept you for who you are. You're a Christian. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to accept me for who I am. Right? I mean, don't treat me like a jackwagon, right? Don't be mean. I would prefer you not to be mean. But like, someone look at me and be like, I don't accept you. You're religious. I have my preconceived notions of who you are as a religious person. I do not like that about you. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you need to accept me for who I am. What I will say is that these are the aspects of myself, right? That these are the things that build who I am. And so when it comes to interests, in that moment of extreme excitement and splendor, when I'm watching the crazy things happen and take place, and I'm looking at all of the visuals, and I'm seeing the story develop, I'm like, this is the best. I don't know how anybody doesn't like this. This is great. This is awesome. Why do people play Call of Duty when they could be playing this masterpiece? And I'm reminded so humbly by someone in chat going, because it scratches that itch, man. It's a different thing. It's multiplayer. It's fun. And I'm like, you're so right. The excitement that I have for Final Fantasy, the story, the lore, the emotions that are tied to this, those same types of things can be experienced elsewhere and should be experienced elsewhere. And the gaming industry needs to know and understand that this type of feeling, this type of excitement exists when there are differences. Making every game look the same, feel the same, be the same because of popularity makes gaming worse. When battle royales were the most important thing ever, that's all they did. And there's battle royale, battle royale, battle royale. And I'm looking at that going like, I think we're off base by trying to make everything a battle royale. What happens when everything's a battle royale is we don't have single player narrative games that are really good. When everything's a battle royale, it doesn't push different mechanics. It's just like, this is what everybody wants. It's a cash cow, free game, spend money on skins. And hey, it worked. It made tons of money, and it was absolutely powerful in its own right in a certain way. I mean, I was a huge fan of Fortnite. Still am a fan of Fortnite in certain ways. Haven't played it in a while. I've lost interest in playing it as much as I did. The people I used to play with, I don't really play games with anymore, so it's like not as fun as it used to be. But that being said, still, this idea of everything needs to be the same, we're starting to see it happen over and over again. And I feel like there's a running back to older titles and older games because it wasn't the same. right? Even in your own franchises. Final Fantasy is a good example. Sure, the first 6 were similar in nature, but once 7 hit, something different happened. We had a different type of battle mechanic. Then 8 happened. It's a little bit different. 9 was different as well. And then 10 went back to the original, real, true, actual turn-based style. 11 being online, first online experience, trying to capitalize on that World of Warcraft hype. Didn't do the best. Did okay. And then we got into 12, 13, 14. Now we have 14 being one of the biggest, right, online MMOs. 15 going to an action RPG. 16 really even going harder in the action camp. And we don't know what 17 is going to be all about. But here we go, They're different. Zelda even. We have mainline stories. We have Link's Awakening, which is a really interesting story. And then at the end of it, you guys can play it and figure out for yourself. But at the end of it, the ending is much different than anything we've ever experienced before. Even Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 are different. We can look at Mario games similarly. We can look at the 6 coins, the Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy. That game, Wario is actually the bad guy, not Bowser. There are differences, right? And of course, it's still a platformer and the games still play the same, but there are differences nonetheless. I feel like games as a whole, big box games, have started to be like, oh, Ubisoft does it this way, so we should do it this way. And there's some elements of that in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it's just like kind of open zone, hit the node, go to the next spot. Waymarker. Games start to feel very, very repetitive and similar. The visuals are different. But when games take a step to the side and go, hey, let's make something special, we start to see something absolutely incredible. And someone like myself, a 36-year-old father, late diagnosed with ADHD, who's trying to figure out what I like and how I like and who I like even, I can experience something and have a visceral reaction, right? Angry at times because of the story's craziness. I can have an emotional reaction and cry and sit there and be so moved by story beats in Final Fantasy 16. These things that I enjoy in this space are because they are different. The people that I enjoy in my life are different experiences, different interests. This kind of thing is so important. And the more we strive to blur the lines of what differences are, and we don't actually promote and get excited about the differences, right? It is when we start to lose some of this passion. I've seen so much of it worldwide, where we see so much difference being blurred, or worse yet, categorization. You can only be this way, and so you need to be categorized as this person and only stay in your little community. I think that that's breaking us as people. I really do. While I do enjoy playing Final Fantasy and someone else might enjoy playing Call of Duty, those two people are still incredible individuals. Those two people still share a passion. What's that passion? Enjoyment of video games. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think some of the self-segregation we do in the gaming space is probably what's hurting us as gamers. I think worse yet, it's hurting us as people. I think as people, we should strive to find out what are the similarities, but really celebrate the differences. Celebrate some of the things that are different and understand those differences, right? It is so cool to learn from someone who likes something different. Here's something. You want to try something practical? Here's a practical application. I'll get all kumbaya on you, okay? One of your best friends or good friends or coworkers who you don't know that well. Find out what they like and ask them to talk about it. That's it. Spend time trying to learn about what someone else likes. Let me tell you right now, the inspiration that comes from watching someone else's passion, it's crazy. Let's say you've never played a game of chess. Watch someone talk about chess. Oh, forget about the thing that it is and watch the person's heart speak. Dude, kidding me? It's insane. When someone speaks with passion, understanding, oh man, It gets me going. Watching someone like Sam Sulek talk about bodybuilding, although I do enjoy bodybuilding myself, is infectious. Back when I was watching Peter McKinnon talk about photography, watching Maddie Hapoya talk about storytelling, watch Casey Neistat talk about life. All these people talked with passion and understanding. That's why these emotional responses were so powerful for me, and I responded so well to them, was because I was not watching them and listening to them talk about a thing, a product. What I was listening to was them talk about a care and a love for something. This for me is so infectious and so awesome. And so, again, as I get excited about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if you guys want to get excited, come join over on twitch.tv/JDXCoffee. We as a community are going through all of the Final Fantasy games to see what is this whole franchise all about. Some of it fun, not all of it fun. This is, for me, such a cool time to share with other people. So if you're passionate about gaming, I want to know about it. Come join me online, comments below. Thanks for hanging out and listening to The Cup. I'm going to get back to gaming. That's what I'm going to do with the community who's waiting so patiently as I make this cup of coffee and talk to you guys. So I'm going to do that. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to say, play more, be kind. I'll see you around.